Y'all asked, so I'm gonna make a video. Today you will find out what lens and camera and everything that I shoot with when I'm shooting my bloggers and all my clients. So check it out. So what's up guys? Welcome back to my channel. So I've been trying to figure out how I wanna go about this whole YouTube channel thing. A lot of you know me from doing my hair on YouTube, but I still do my hair. I just don't feel the need to record it as much anymore. But now I get a lot of photography questions, so I think this channel is just gonna go ahead and transition into like tech, photography and social media, like all the stuff that I love talking about, that I talk about all the time. I don't really talk about my hair that much anymore because I pretty much do the same thing to it. I do, however, plan to do a update wash and go because that has updated. We're just gonna go with the flow on this channel. I really want to start posting more videos, so let's just jump right into it. The first video that I have been wanting to record, and the most asked question that I get is, what camera do you use? What lens do you use? What do you use? What's in your bag? What's your favorite lens? What's your camera? What you got? What you shooting with? So I'm answering that question, and it's really a short answer, believe it or not, but y'all asked, so I'm gonna make a video. Today you will find out what lens and camera and everything that I shoot with when I'm shooting my bloggers and all my clients. So check it out. So first things first, I use 2 lenses only. I only use 2 lenses. I don't have like a bucket full of lenses that I don't have like 10,000 lenses that I switch between. I only use 2, and I use those 2, and I've been using those 2 for about a year and a half now. But I'm gonna take it back all the way to the beginning from when I started my photography, because the camera that I shoot on is the camera that I'm actually recording this video on, so I'm not able to like show you guys while I'm talking what camera it is. However, my go-to camera that I shoot with is the 5D Mark IV. That is the camera that I currently use, and that is the camera that I have been using for a year now. I've had the camera for a year. Before I had the Canon, before I upgraded to the Mark IV, the 5D Mark IV, I used the Canon 70D. This is the camera. This is the camera that I used to use. So this is the camera that I used for I used this camera for a year before I upgraded to this camera that I'm filming on right now. So the start of my photography journey, I started with a Canon T2i because I had my Canon to record my YouTube videos on. I didn't intend to be a photographer. That's just a skill set that I discovered that I had. So my sister actually, she wanted to be a photographer, and when she realized that she wasn't really, I guess it was a hobby that she picked up on, but then she kind of put the camera down for a while, and when she saw that I was getting into YouTube, she passed it off to me because she was like, hey, I'm not using this, do you want to use this camera? So I took that. So that is the camera that I started with, and that is the camera that I used for a whole year. And then when I realized that photography was something that I was getting into, I decided I wanted to upgrade my equipment. So the first lens that I upgraded to, and which is a very inexpensive, very affordable lens if you're a beginner photographer and you're like, this is something that I'm getting into, this is something that I want to try out, and you just want to like play around with different lenses, but you don't have the money to kind of just go around buying all kinds of lenses. This lens is very affordable, and it's probably the cheapest, the best cheapest lens. I don't know if that makes sense, but a lot of good lenses, like if you're into photography, then you're familiar with the words aperture. Aperture is what gives you that blurry background. So the smaller the number of the aperture is, the blurrier the background will be. So 1.8 is a really good number. That's kind of like the beginner blur. And then when you get into the 1.4, 1.2, you like, oh shoot, I'm a professional. But yeah, so the lower the number, the blurrier the background is. So this 50 millimeter, the 50 millimeter 1.8 is only $100, which is super cheap for a lens. I don't even think there is a lens that's less than $100. So the 50 millimeter 1.8 is $100. It gives you that blur. It gives you a good blur to like start out with, to practice with, to, like a good beginner lens for you to, you could take good headshots with this lens. This lens was like my go-to lens for a long time before I upgraded again. And so this is very affordable for all my beginner photographers, for all my newbie photographers, for people who just picked up a camera but they're like, I don't want to just take pictures with the kit lens, because you know the kit lens is just like the kit lens, like but you want to have a little bit of blur to your photos. This is the lens to get, the 50 millimeter 1.8, and it's only $100. And if you get it used, it's probably like $70. But I spent like $110 on Amazon to get this lens, and I used this lens for like a year and a half before I got another lens. The 50 millimeter, the pros and cons. Let's talk about that. The pros and cons of the 50 millimeter. The pros are that it's very affordable, inexpensive, great for beginners, gives you a little bit of bokeh that you need if you're trying to get into like taking more professional photos, or if you're just trying to, if you're taking photos to get paid, this is a good lens to give your clients quality without breaking the bank. So you could give quality images. Like people paid me, like I was hired for projects and I used this lens. So this lens will give you quality images to give your clients. If you're a beginner and you're just starting out and you want to give quality images that won't break your bank, you can buy this. There's really no con, but this is a fixed lens. A fixed lens means you can't zoom in and out. You have to like step up, step back if you want to get closer or get further away. With the 50 millimeter lens, it's a cropped lens, and you have to, it's basically you have to be, I think it's, you have to be 50 millimeters away from the person, so, or away from your subject to get focus on it. So you have to be a little far away from your subject if you want to get their full body. You have to be a few feet away from them. And for beginner photographers, that's a little bit uncomfortable to be far away from their subject. And then when you're uncomfortable, your client's uncomfortable. So I think the downside to this is if you're a beginner, you soon find out that this lens is super cropped. And if you're in a tight room and you can't back up, this lens will give you some problems if you're in a tight space. But it's not a bad lens if you have room to move around. So the second lens that I got, once I upgraded from this one, I got the, what did I get next? I got the 35 millimeter 1.4 Sigma, which is what I'm filming on right now, so I can't like hold it up and show it to you guys, but I'll be sure to film some like detailed shots of it so y'all can see what I'm talking about. A 35 millimeter lens, Sigma 1.4. So there goes that number again, 1.4. So the 1.4 gives me even more blur than I got with this lens. And with it being a 35 millimeter lens, it's a wider lens, so it lets me get more stuff. Like, so if I'm taking pictures outside, I can get photos of the person and the building. I don't have to step too far away from them to do that. I could be like right here and I can get everything, versus with the 50 millimeter lens, I had to step way back to get the same shot. And then you can take more group shots without having to step far away. So with the 35 millimeter lens, you basically can get a wider shot, great depth of field, and not have to step too far back from the person. But the downside to this lens is that it's $8.99. So that's why I said, you know, there's pros and cons. Like, this lens is amazing. It's my favorite lens. It's the lens that I'm using 75% of the time. Or I would say 50%. 50% of the time I'm using my 35mm lens or the next lens that I'll be talking about. So this lens, the great thing about it is that it solves all your problems. If you're in a space with low light, it goes down to 1.4. So it brings in more light if you're in a low lit space. And if you're shooting things that requires you to like be in a tight space, you can get the wide shot without having to step far away or without having to feel constricted to the space that you're in, not being able to get the shot that you need. So this is the lens that I'm actually filming this video on. So yeah, I love it. It's worth the $900 that I spent to get it. So the downside to the lens is that it's pretty expensive. If you don't have $900 to just, it's not throwing away because it's investing in your business. And if you get insurance, then you don't have to worry about spending another $900. Because I buy all my lenses from Best Buy and they have great protection on their electronics and gadgets. So I get the Geek Squad protection. So for example, I actually broke this lens. If you follow me on Instagram, I put on my Insta story the time that I broke this lens, and I went to Best Buy, and because I had the protection, they just gave me a gift card to go buy it again. So I recommend, if you're getting lenses that are as expensive as this one, then I recommend getting the insurance so you can get it replaced. So the next lens that I always use, that if I'm not using my 35, I'm using this one. I go between these two pretty frequent. Like, these are the only lenses I use. So if I'm not using a 35, I'm using this one. So the next lens that I use is the 85mm 1.8, which this lens basically made me drop this lens, because this lens is just as cropped, if not more cropped, than this one. So as I was saying about this lens, or all my lenses are fixed lenses. I don't have any zoom lenses. Do I want a zoom lens? Yes. Do I need a zoom lens? Not really, because I have my 35, which is wide enough, and then I have my cropped lenses, which are good for me too. So I don't really need to zoom. The only downside is when I want a wide shot, I have to take my lens off and put on the 35. When I want a close-up shot, I have to take off my 35 and put that one on. But I've been doing that for about a year, so it's not really bothering me that I can't zoom. Like, I like moving. I like mobility. I don't have to stand in one spot and just zoom in and out. I like to move around. So that doesn't bother me. But this 85mm is the bomb. This lens is all of my clients' favorite lenses. This is what I like to call the creamy headshot lens. Like, if you need a good headshot with good blur, sharpness, you know, this is the lens to get. It has, even though they're both 1.8 lenses, for whatever reason, this lens has even more blur to me than the 50mm 1.8. And it's just sharper, and I just love everything about it. I actually want to upgrade it to the 1.4 version, or the 1.2, but the 1.2 is like $1,200, and I'm not sure if I need a 1.2. Like I don't think I will ever even shoot at 1.2, because at some point when you blur it too much, you start to blur people's faces, like, and only the center of them are sharp. So I don't know, but I do think I want to get the 1.4. But for now, I have the 1.8, and the 1.8, it's about $399. I think it's like $400. So yeah, this one is $400, which is a pretty good price. It's not $1,000 like the other lens I spoke about. So this lens is $400. It is cropped. The downside is you do have to be pretty far away from your subject to get the shot that you need. You can't be super close to the person, so it's not a wide lens. It's definitely a super cropped lens, but it gives you that blur bokeh that everybody loves. Everybody loves the blurry background. I don't think it's necessary for every single shot, but everybody loves the blur, and if you like that, if that's your style, then this is the lens to get. So yeah, those are my the two lenses that I use all the time is the 85mm 1.8 and the Sigma 35mm 1.4. Both of these lenses are Canon lenses. I use the Canon 5D Mark IV. But the lens that I started with is the 50mm. So those are all the lenses that I've ever used for all of my photography. So I basically have given you 3 different ranges of lenses, 3 different price points. So depending on what you need, I would always recommend the 35mm over any of these lenses because it's an all-around great lens for you to use anywhere. Like if I'm traveling, I probably have the 35mm on my camera at all times, because when you're traveling, you want to get the landscape, you want to get the people. You can always move close and you don't have to always back up. So I feel like the 35mm, because it's not too wide, it's just wide enough. So it's not wide where it looks like you're getting the whole city. Like, it's just wide enough to focus on your subject. It gives you the blur that you need. You could always move closer if you need to get a more cropped shot, or you could just back up. But you shouldn't have to back up unless you're shooting 100 people. You shouldn't have to back up too far because of how wide it is. But I would always recommend that, even though it is the most expensive that I brought up. But it's great for everything. If you shoot births, it's great. I've shot 4 births. I've shot 3 weddings. I shoot all my bloggers with it. It's great for Instagram. Like, it's not too cropped to where when you post a picture your head gets cut off or whatever. If you're trying to shoot like a full body shot and you want it to fit in the square when you post, this is a great lens to get if you want to upgrade. So yeah, I love the 35mm. It's my favorite lens. It's the lens that I would recommend for everybody to get if they can afford to get it. If they cannot afford to get it, but they do have a little bit of monies, I would recommend the 85. The only thing about the 85, I don't think it's an all-around lens. Like, you can't shoot a wedding with just the 85mm. You can't shoot be in tight spaces with just the 85mm. So if you're a portrait photographer and you shoot outside, I shoot outside. I don't really do studios. I think studios are pretty boring. But if you shoot street style like me and you shoot portrait, 85mm will be your favorite. You will like the blur. You will like the bokeh. If you're not afraid to put some distance between you and your client, then you will love it. It's like my second favorite or favorite lens. And then if you can't break the bank, if you don't have a lot of money, but you got a few, like if you got $100 laying around and you're trying to invest in your brand or your photography, the 50mm will give you a little bit of everything. The 50mm, you don't have to back up as far as you would with the 85, but you can't get as close as you could with the 35. So I hope that helps. I get this question all the time. And I've posted like 30 times how many, like what I use. I post it all the time. But I get this question so much, and because I guess because I get new followers or whatever. So I decided to make this video so y'all can know what lenses I'm using. And if I ever add another lens to my collection, I will do another video. But for now, these are the only lenses I have. That's all I got. And these are the only 2 lenses I use is the 85 and the 35. So yeah, if y'all have any questions or if y'all have any video suggestions or anything you want me to record, I will. I want to try to get on a schedule, but I've been saying that for about a year now, so I guess my schedule is just whenever, but I do want to start putting out videos more consistently. It's just that I do everything myself. Like, I am the photographer, I am the videographer, I edit, I make my own graphics, I edit my own website, I do everything. So yeah, sometimes my own video ideas can get put on the back burner, but I do want to get back on YouTube because I'm cute and I know how to shoot. So I just want to, show that we don't always have to be talking about lipstick and hair. Like, I like photography and I can talk about that. So yeah, comment down below if y'all have any questions, and I'll see y'all next time, whenever that is. Alright, bye.